On Thursday, global markets experienced a day of violent gyrations. Oil futures shot up nearly 10% in a matter of hours, peaking at $119 a barrel, while the S&P 500 slid lower. To understand that market panic, you have to look at the catalyst. It was the 20th day of the escalating United States-Israeli war with Iran. In less than 3 weeks, international crude futures had already climbed almost 50%. The human toll is heavy. More than 2,300 civilians have been killed across Iran and Lebanon, alongside casualties in Israel and 13 American deaths. Militarily, the Pentagon is seeking an additional $200 billion to fund the campaign. But this physical devastation is also triggering a massive secondary effect. Looking closely at Thursday's massive price swings reveals a distinct pattern. What exact forces push the global energy market to the brink of crisis in the morning, and what does it take to pull those prices back down by the afternoon? For the global economy, this conflict functions as a massive, destabilizing supply chain disruption. It physically chokes off the fuel the world relies on, directly tying global financial stability to the realities of an active war zone. The upward push on prices comes directly from physical scarcity, specifically targeted military strikes on massive Middle Eastern energy infrastructure. On Wednesday and Thursday, a new round of attacks heavily damaged the Ras Laffan energy hub in Qatar. Qatar's total natural gas output plummets, dropping its export capacity by 17% overnight. That single hit equates to a $20 billion annual revenue loss. Because energy markets are interconnected, the supply lines connecting Qatar to Europe and Asia are abruptly broken. The fear of lost production is compounded by the fear of transit disruption. Even the oil that is successfully extracted still has to navigate the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow, critical shipping bottleneck linking the Middle East to global markets, which is currently highly vulnerable to attack. Global markets instantly price in this future scarcity. Investors look at burning facilities and threatened shipping routes, calculate the imminent drop in supply, and buy heavily in anticipation. That collective reaction drove Thursday's surge to $119 a barrel.
Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent floated the idea of lifting United States sanctions on Iranian oil, a move that would theoretically flood the market with millions of barrels of fresh supply to offset the physical losses. The final, most impactful lever was geopolitical. Behind the scenes, the United States directed Israel to completely cease its attacks on Iran's energy fields. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu publicly complied with this directive. In a Jerusalem press conference, he announced a pivot in military focus, claiming that Iran could no longer enrich uranium or manufacture ballistic missiles, omitting any mention of further energy targets. This combination worked. The promise of flooded supply and the confirmed halt of infrastructure attacks gave nervous investors permission to exhale. Oil prices eased off their highs, eventually settling at $108.65. But that intraday relief masks a stubborn truth. Energy analysts and logistics experts are looking past the immediate price drop and warning about the physical reality on the ground. While political rhetoric and market sentiment can shift in a single afternoon, complex industrial infrastructure cannot be rebuilt overnight. Saad Sharida Al-Kaabi, Qatar's energy minister, delivered a grim assessment of what recovery actually looks like for their crippled facilities. He stated that repairing the missile damage to the Ras Laffan hub will take between 3 and 5 years, and even if a peace treaty was signed tomorrow, allowing commercial tankers to securely flow through the Strait of Hormuz again, severe logistical bottlenecks will remain for months before normal transit resumes. There is a massive disconnect between the digital screens on Wall Street and the steel pipes in the Middle East. Financial trading prices in the relief immediately, but physical reconstruction takes years of labor. Financial markets will continue to gyrate based on daily headlines, sudden policy shifts, and political rhetoric. But true economic stability requires functioning physical supply lines. Long after the bombing stops, the constraints on global energy will remain.